Let me ask you, what's the definition of God? Anybody knows? Is this a relevant question or not?
Yes.
It's the most relevant question, I think so. I mean, for some it's not. Because I think there was a documentary, I think you can go to YouTube or maybe, there's a documentary on God. And if you see that documentary, that person, that American, he's like going from place to place and asking many saints, who is God? And those saints, all of them in India and all around the world, Buddhists and Hindus, Christians, when he asked them who is God, they counter questioned him and asked him, what is God? Now there's a difference there. You can note there. Who is God? But then no, what is God? And then most of them said, most of them, the answer was, you can't define God because He's beyond our conception and power to understand. Some of them laughed because they were really confused. What is this question? Who is God? And they were laughing. They were saying, you're so ignorant that you're asking me who is God. He can't be grasped in your mind. Now, of course, and some of them said, well, we are all God. I am God, you are God. You see, these are usual answers which people give. But of course, there is a truth in their answers. You cannot define God, by the way, by your intelligence. Now, that's the whole point there. But is there any definition of God? Now, there is where scriptures begin. Well, you know what? Can we stop this, fans? It's like, it's not it's very disturbing to me. I'm like, my mind is out. No, that's okay. But it's my problem. Now it's a little bit okay. You're not feeling hot, no? All of you? That's okay. Okay. So scriptures begin with this definition of God. Now, if you go to any saint, any South Indian, any Vaishnava Sampradaya, they will begin with this question of defining God, and that's where spiritual journey begins. In fact, when I became full-time, I went to many saints and met them, and I was asking this one question: define God. And nobody could do that. When I read Prabhupada's books, the first thing was definition of God. This is perfect, because if you can't define something, you can't attain it. And that's why Prabhupada said this is science of self-realization. Am I right? Prabhupada used the word science not because just to sell his product, because if you say it's a science, people buy, but he meant that it's a science. So, okay, that's why I asked you, what's the definition of God? Can anybody tell me? What's the definition of God? Come on, I mean to say. Okay, who is the Supreme Person? But
He is the Supreme Controller. All pervading, is such a handful of.
what does Prabhupada gives a definition? Sanskrit verse. Come on. Yeah. Aishwarya samagrasya virya shriya jnana viragya shashnam bhagay tingana. That's a very usual definition of God. Am I right? But you know what? I have to talk much about that. But okay, some definitions. So I'll talk about the definition in a moment. But this is important. We should know how to define things. Defining God. Okay, this is you talked about something about definition of God. I'll talk about it. Okay, so what's the goal of life? To attain Krishna. Okay. To attain Krishna, that's the goal of life? Am I right, all of you? No.
To go back to God.
To go back to God? No.
We have
What is Krishna prem 𝗪𝗪𝗀 mahan. Love of God is a goal of life, not Krishna. Because many people saw Krishna, but they were demons. Many were demons, am I right? They attained him, but at the same time, they didn't love him, so it's of no use. I mean to say, many people saw Krishna. In Bhagavatam, it comes when Krishna was going from Hastinapur to Dwarka after the war. Many people saw him. And they saw and they thought he's a king, and they couldn't really appreciate him. All of them couldn't really appreciate him. Many people were neutral, many people were demons, they wanted to kill him. So Krishna is not the goal of life. Love of God is the goal of life. And that is why a theist and atheist. How do we define a theist and atheist? A theist is not a person who actually knows who is God. And an atheist is not a person who doesn't know who is God. No. Because an atheist can also know God. Raman knew Ram is. I mean to say he knew or not knew, but demons know. Hiranyaksha knew Vishnu is God. But he said, I want to kill him. That was the whole point. So, theist is a person who knows that my aim of life is to love him. Conception of love has to be there. An atheist is a person who doesn't have this conception of loving God. And in that sense, what do you say? So many people come to temples, Hindu temple, am I right? Are they theist or atheist?
Atheist.
Yeah, if you really technically go according to definition, they are atheist because they are coming to temple. They know Krishna is God. Many of them are Gujaratis, they know Krishna is God, but at the same time they are very confused also, he's God. But even if they know who is God, still they are atheist because they don't have the conception of loving him. Am I right? So technically they are atheist, but at the same time scriptures, you know what I mean to say, some people are not coming to temple at all. At least they are coming to temple, am I right? So scriptures don't want to dishearten them by calling them atheist. So the word used for them is what? They are neither theist, they are neither atheist. I mean to say, because they are atheist, but we don't want to call them atheist.
Agnostic?
Okay, you can tell them in English. Agnostic, yeah. English word, agnostic. They're in between. Or you can say they are atheist in the garb of theist. Something like that. Or they have a shadow of, perverted shadow of theism. Am I right? They are something confused bit. So you see, it's very important to, okay, now here's a quiz before I start this. I mean to say, what I'm doing is, with you is, I'm trying to give you understanding. Please define things. Because if you don't define things, you will not attain it. And that's, by the way, the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We call him Namo Mahavadanyaya. You know why we call him Namo Mahavadanyaya? Because he is the most merciful. What that means. That's the whole thing I mean to say. There are many most merciful people. But then he's the most merciful. Why? Because he gave us the science of devotion. That's what he did. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, yogyata na karha vichar. Chaitanya Prabhu doesn't care for qualification and disqualifications of a person. He simply gives. He distributes love of God, but at the same time, he's not foolish to just distribute love of God to Tom, Dick, Harry. Am I right? There's a difference between compassion and foolishness. There's a lot of difference. And if you don't understand that, then you'll have tough time. There's a lot of difference. Compassion and compassionate person is not a foolish person. So what about Yudhishthira Maharaj? He was compassionate or not? I mean to say, we have to. Yeah, it's a pre-assumed fact. He is a compassionate person, but at the same time, he's a king. He has to be a politician. He has to think diplomatically. A king who doesn't think diplomatically cannot be a king. So he's not a foolish man. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what he does is, he gives qualification also to attain love of God. That's a speciality. He's not just distributing love of God to unqualified people. That will be foolishness, because if you give love of God to unqualified people, they will disrespect the gift because they have no idea what is love. But he gives a qualification. And how does he give the qualification? By giving them knowledge. And that's what, there's a famous verse, 𝗪𝗲𝗪𝗲 𝗪𝗲𝗀 कारुण्यवतीर्न कलौ. You have heard that? Chaitanya Prabhu has given that thing which was not given for so long time. Even to Brahma it was not given. What he has given definitions. That's what this seminar is all about. Nobody defined God as he did. I'll talk about that. Nobody defined the goal of life as Mahaprabhu did. I mean to say, of course, Mahaprabhu is the only person who defined the goal of life. Other people will talk about moksha, liberation. Mahaprabhu said, no, well, goal of life is love. Many people talked about love of God. Even Christian saints, if you go, they talked about love. Even Islamic saints, Sufism, they were talking about love. But when you ask them about what is the definition of love, most of them said it is undefinable. You have to feel it. When it comes to love, Mahaprabhu says, no, I'll define it for you. So, this is important, am I right? Definition of love, definition of God, definition of devotion. Okay, so here we are defining God. Okay, so how to define God? But before defining God, let me just talk about this. There are many definitions of God, by the way. So at least 5 I will give you. But they should be infinite, am I right? Because so we have a general definition, we have a philosophical definition, we have a definition of God from power perspective, from mercy perspective, and from sweetness perspective. And there's a difference in all these definitions. And all these definitions we must know. Otherwise we will never understand Vedyam vastavam vastu atra shivadam tapreon unmulanam. You know this first verse of Bhagavatam? Vedyam vastavam vastu. First verse says you have to know vastu, the object of inquiry. Vastavam, in reality, in full. Otherwise, there will be no Shivadam. Shivadam means auspiciousness. So, okay, you see there are so many definitions. Now you might be thinking, why so many definitions? Am I right? I mean, if you want to define, you define, that's all. But that's not the whole point. Everything in this word has different definitions. Actually, there is a definition for a definition. There's a definition. How do you define things? That has to be understood. And if you read the definition of a definition, 𝗦𝗪𝗪𝗪, it defines a definition. How do you define things? That's the whole subject. So every object has to be defined from different perspective. For example, let me ask you, how do you define money? Now money, you can define in many ways. I mean to say, you can define money from economic perspective, from ethical perspective, from a social perspective, from a political perspective, from a spiritual perspective. Am I right? So if you want to define money through ethical perspective, what does that mean? Ethical, you understand? Okay, so then you define, so if you want to define ethically, then you have to talk about in the definition how money should be used, in good or bad. Am I right? If you want to define money from political perspective, then you have to talk how money is used by the leaders. Is this corruption or not? If you want to define money from economic perspective, then you have to talk about deflation, inflation. Am I right? If you want to define money from social perspective, you have to bring the concept of how money is distributed in the society. So you see, there are different definitions of the same object, and all are required to understand what is money. Suppose if you want to define a woman, how do you define? There are many perspectives. You can define a woman as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter. Am I right? And all definitions can work simultaneously. In a house, a joint family, female is acting, woman is acting in all roles simultaneously. Am I right? She can do that perfectly. So, or from a religious perspective, if you had been there in Saudi Arab, let's say 1,000 years back, and if you would ask them how do you define a woman, they would say woman is an object of enjoyment. Nothing more than that. Am I right? Prophet Muhammad came and then in Quran he gave a lot of respect to women. Am I right? Quran is all about, because they were saying woman is an object of enjoyment, use and throw. That's all. They were barbarians, no? That they're all for them woman was like that. So how you define, that's how you think. How you think, that's how you act. How you act, that's how you behave. And how you behave, that you become. And everything begins from definitions. Everything begins from definitions. Definitions, we have our own definition of a life. Am I right? The definition of my life is to earn money and be successful. Okay, then that defines the course of your action. So, we should have a dictionary. And there we should have all definitions. Actually, so I'm writing a book on definitions. I mean to say, it's in a rare format, but I'm writing a book on definitions because that's the whole problem. Devotees know things, but at the same time they don't know, because there's an error there in basic foundation. That's why things don't work. They don't work properly. What's the definition of concentration, for, by the way? I'll talk about that. I'll not talk here, but okay. So you see, that's why we have so many definitions. You got the point? So all of them are necessary to understand what is God. Okay, let me ask you, which definition? So if I ask you, choose one of them, which is the most important? Which one you choose?
Sweetness.
Which one? Sweetness, mercy. Okay, you have to give the. But you have to give the answer. Why? It's not a random choice. Why do you want to choose mercy? Everybody can speak anything. Why?
That's right.
As an individual, the spirit soul, we need mercy of God to advance in devotion.
Okay.
Become godly.
Okay, not bad.
Progress.
Okay, yeah. And?
I guess mercy is something you get even if you don't deserve it. Yes. That's mercy. You get
Okay. So you want to choose mercy definition as a...
I choose sweetness because it's reciprocal. Reciprocal is there.
Okay.
Sweetness because it'll help you love God.
How to?
It'll help you love God.
How do you love God?
Help you
What's he saying?
How to love God.
How to? Okay, what's your answers are okay, but your logic is not good. Which one do you choose? I ask you to choose one of them.
I think philosophical or the tattva which are also make sense.
Why?
To go by what's in the
See, all of the definitions are important. That's why I'm quoting. But which one to choose if I give you a choice? If I press you...
Is mercy our only chance to get to know Him?
Okay. Yeah, okay, fine. Through mercy we know Him. Yeah, you're right. But you know what? If you ask me which to choose, I'll choose sweetness. You know why? Because the definition of sweetness has all these definitions in it. You see the point? Because Krishna is sweet, He extends His mercy to everybody. Am I right? Because Krishna is sweet, that's why He is the most powerful, because the most powerful force in this world is not gravitation, is not electromagnetism, is not... The most powerful force in this world is love. That's how it goes. Even all your physical forces are derived from love. Now, that's another topic, how it goes by love. But, so sweetness has power perspective also, mercy perspective. Because Krishna is sweet, is merciful. Because He is sweet, He exhibits His power. His power is not out of tyranny. Am I right? It's out of sweetness. That's how we understand His power. Otherwise, if you say He's a powerful person, then automatically it comes, is he a tyrant? Oh, you know this word tyrant? What do we say? Simple word for that. How do we say? Hitler? Like he's not like a Hitler. So no. So 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗃 has that song is a Madhuram Madhuram. In that it comes Srishti Madhuram. His power, his creation is sweet. So power, because he's sweet is powerful. Because he's sweet, that is why we have a philosophical philosophy. If we want to define Krishna by philosophically, first thing should come is sweet. Am I right? That's the essence of his being. Ras Vigraha. And in general definition, we have to bring his sweetness. Am I right? So the sweetness perspective has all the perspectives. That's why I choose sweetness. It's not because I want to leave some definitions. It's because sweetness is an inclusive definition. And that's why I put it last.
Madhurya Bhagavata Swami.
Madhurya Bhagavata. Yeah, Madhurya. Yeah. Actually, all rasas are also like that. Isn't Madhurya rasas all rasas? See then? That's why we choose Madhurya. Mahaprabhu choose Madhurya ras. So Mahaprabhu didn't say, oh, Vatsalya ras is not good, Rasya ras is not good, Madhurya is perfect. No, that was not the whole idea. Idea was Madhurya ras has all rasas. And as devotees, we want to serve him all rasas. Am I right? We are his servants. So that's why he chose Madhurya rasa. It is elements of everything. Okay, so that definition I'll talk last, but let's talk one by one now. But before I talk about these definitions, let me just... Okay, philosophical definition is called Tattva Vichar, philosophically. And then there is Rasa Vichar, which is mellows. Now, Rasa, according to Rasa Vichar, we have three definitions. It goes like this. Okay, Okay, let me ask you before I begin. What's the scientific definition of God? Is there any definition? If some scientists come and they ask, what's scientific definition? Is it there or not? If you ask a scientist, of course, they don't believe in God, first of all. But if you press them, not modern scientists, but if you had been, 300 years back, they would have got some conception in their mind. According to Einstein, his conception of God was very pantheistic. His conception of God was God is the natural laws. Any scientist who is a theist, most of them, they are theists because they like to think of God as being present as natural laws. Am I right? If they are at all. So that's how scientists see God as. And that's not a bad definition. That's good from scientific perspective. Okay. So let's talk one by one. But before that, let me just tell you from where we got these definitions. General definition is in scriptures, in Puranas. Philosophical definition is in Gita. Power and mercy perspective is in Bhagavatam. Oh, what's happened? Why it is? Chalo, theek hai. You can see, no? You can understand, no? Yeah. Intuitionally, you can understand. And sweetness perspective is Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's how it goes. And that's why Srila Prabhupada said Gita is undergraduation, Bhagavatam is post-graduation, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is super specialization. Prabhupada said because of this. I mean to say, you define the same object but in different ways, in a more deeper way. That's what happens in UG, PG and post-specialization. You're not talking about a different subject. You're talking about the same subject, but you're going in the depth. So Chaitanya is not talking about a different subject, it is going in depth. That is why if you read Gita, the whole message of Gita is what? In one word?
Surrender.
Yeah, surrender, okay. That's where Gita finishes. And Bhagavatam begins from there. And Bhagavatam teaches us, okay, that's a surrender. But then Bhagavatam teaches us, how to surrender. Now, okay, Krishna says surrender. But Krishna simply says about how to surrender in just one or two words. I said, Van mana bhav mad bhakto, become a devotee, that's all. But then how to do it, Bhagavatam defines by giving examples of devotees. Am I right? And then Bhagavatam finishes there. But then Chaitanya Charitamrita begins. And what does Chaitanya Charitamrita talks about then? What does it talk? So Bhagavad Gita talks about why you have to surrender, and why, because your partner passed. Bhagavatam talks about how to surrender, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita,
Result of the surrender.
result of the surrender. Okay, that's in Bhagavatam, love.
He's showing the how to do practically.
Okay, that's what you can talk. But I mean to say, even Bhagavatam shows, isn't it? There are so many devotees, Ambarish Maharaj and gopis. They are showing. Of course, Mahaprabhu showed more at our level. But Chaitanya literally is about, Bhagavad Gita is all about why and what to surrender. And what means what, of course, yourself. Why to surrender. Bhagavatam, how? Chaitanya is talking about the question of when. The question is, okay, now you have surrendered and you know how to surrender. But after surrender, what happens? And what will happen, when it will happen? That's the question. So when, that's what Mahaprabhu, when will I attain Krishna? Am I right? That's Chaitanya Charitamrita all about. When I will become pure. Yugayatam nimishena, when that day will come. It's all when. It's all when. Ashleshavad, when you will accept me, O my Lord. Chaitanya is not talking about why and what and how. It's all about when. All songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all of them are when. Gopinath, please accept when you will accept me. And that's where we have to go. When this question of when will come in your heart, then you're in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When will I attain love of God? When will I attain God? When will you have that kind of longing? That's Chaitanya Charitamrita all about. So you begin with why, then you go to how, then you come to when. And that's what is the difference. That makes UG, PG, but those questions will come when you understand God, when you define it in different ways. Then those questions will come. Otherwise, that will not come. Okay, you got my point? So, yeah. Mic? Okay. Okay, is it clear, all of you? So, if anybody asks why Chaitanya is super specialization, what's your answer? Because it defines God in sweetness perspective. And because Chaitanya defines God from sweetness perspective, the question of when comes there. When that sweetness can be relished by me. Am I right? If there's no sweetness, then the question of when will not come. Then why, how and what? Just like this mic, okay. Why it is made, how it is made, what it is made of. But I mean to say, okay, when will I have it? I'm not dying for it. It doesn't happen. But if I give you suppose if I give you a Coke, I mean, not Coke, but I mean to say, I give you a next generation of Coke, which you have never tasted, but I give you the sweetest cold drink in the whole world, and I give you this much. And then what will be your question after that? Please give me more. And if I don't give you, then? When? That's the whole question. So, only sweetness can bring this question of when. And that's why Chaitanya is super specialization, because it talks about sweetness of God, and that brings the question of when. Otherwise, it will never come. It will never come in your heart. You understood? So that's why. So we will give definitions from these books. General definition I'll give you from Puranas, philosophical definition from Gita, and power and mercy from Bhagavatam, and sweetness perspective from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll give you definitions from that. But here is just a footnote that generally devotees say first you read Gita, then Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita. Am I right? Because one is UG, PG and super specialization, and in the process they never read Chaitanya Charitamrita. 99% of devotees I have seen, they have not read Chaitanya Charitamrita, even after 30 years in the movement. They have not read. Why? Because we have not finished Bhagavatam. Then just get lost, that's all. then what you are doing? I mean to say, then why you are chanting Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda? Why are you chanting God Hari? It doesn't make any sense at all. And the solution to this is actually Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he asked Prabhupada this question. Bhakti Charu Maharaj has released a book. What's that? A new book, no? Ocean of... Yeah, and I was reading that, and he asked this question to Prabhupada. That Prabhupada, you say Gita is 𝗙𝗍 and Bhagavatam is PG and 𝗙𝗍 is specialization. So we have not read 𝗙𝗍. Can I read 𝗙𝗍? Because he was a Bengali. So he said, well, I can read Chaitanya Charitamrita directly from Bengali. Can I read it? Prabhupada said, why not? But then he said, Prabhupada, but you have said this. Systematically you have to go. Prabhupada said, well, you know what? Prabhupada said, do you know that you have to surrender to Krishna? He said, yes. Prabhupada said, you have surrendered. And then he said, do you know how to surrender to him? He said, yes, I'm doing that. I'm in your service. Then you're ready for Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see. That's the whole point. Please read Chaitanya Charitamrita, otherwise you will not make advancement. It will be zero advancement. At least if you have spent 4 or 5 years in a movement. For new people, okay, we recommend you first read Gita. At least if you spend 6 or 7 years, you have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. It doesn't make any sense. Bhaktisiddhanta, he used to say, when people used to come to him, the first book he used to ask them to read is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Not even Gita. He says, don't read Gita. He says, he said, if Gita gets lost in this world, the world will not lose anything. But if Chaitanya Charitamrita gets lost, everything will be lost. That's what he used to say. Because Chaitanya Charitamrita has all the principles of Gita as well as more. It's not lacking, but more depth. So, but in fact, Bhaktisiddhanta didn't used to tell them to read Chaitanya Charitamrita, by the way. First, he used to ask them to read Chaitanya Bhagavat. Because Chaitanya Charitamrita has more philosophy, especially Adi Leela, a little technical. Chaitanya Bhagavat is nice, it's like in pastimes, and so he used to do that to a general audience, because there were many Bengalis, but to very intellectual people, his stalwart devotees used to say Chaitanya Charitamrita. So please read that, because in Mayapur recently they had a meeting, a leaders meeting, and there were leaders from all around the world, temple presidents and all of them, and they did some statistics, and they asked how many books you have read, and this they had to take, and 99% of devotees didn't read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that's a bad thing. So I'm going all around the world, I'm telling, please read. These 3 books are important, Gita, Bhagavatam, these are enough, but you have to read, otherwise you will never taste the sweetness, and if you don't taste the sweetness, heart becomes dry, and it's not a good idea. Both things should be there, preaching to others and preaching to oneself. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense. By the way, if you don't preach to yourself, you will not be able to preach to others. That's also one thing. You will not be able to help others. If you can't help yourself, how will you help others? It makes sense? You can't do that. So please take care of that. Okay, so I'll talk about every definition now. Okay, fine. So what is general definition? Let's come to definitions. She told general definition. Aishvarasya samagrasya Viryasya sajashriya Jnana Vairagya Shashnam Bhaga Itingana. Okay, I think I can mark this with a pen here. Yeah. It's coming? I see. Okay. So this verse is from where? This is from Vishnu Puran, by the way. Here. It's from Vishnu Puran. From 6.347. Is it? Okay. So Vishnu Puran is written by whom? Yeah. Parashar Muni. Who is Parashar Muni? Come on, you should know these answers. This should be spontaneous. If I ask you in sleep, you have to know this. Otherwise, what's the point of sitting in this building? Am I right? Otherwise, you are defaming Prabhupada. He came to change this world. But you can't change this world if you can't answer simple question. I mean to say, I'm not saying that you don't know anything, but I'm saying please try to know these things. Otherwise it looks very bad in the public. There's one scholar in Oxford, he just wrote a book. He wrote a book, by the way, a thick book I read. I just saw it. And the name of the book was, it's funny, but he wrote it, Hinduization of ISKCON. He wrote this book. You know this, Gopal? You know this? Hinduization of ISKCON. And he has written a research and he says, well, I mean to say, ISKCON is a great movement and nice knowledge. Prabhupada is one of the best transcendental ambassador. But then he said, in my research I noted, the Prabhupada's movement, Prabhupada's devotees are not reading his books. Now you see the point, not only us, but other people are noting this. And he's not the only one. And if you don't know our stuff, if you don't know your stuff, how will you sell this product? It's crazy. In any corporate, in any company, you have to know the stuff. Otherwise, you can't understand. So please, at least know this thing, okay? Okay, I don't know whether you know this. Who wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita? Okay, thank you for that. Krishna Consciousness Swami. Who wrote Chaitanya Bhagavat? This is a tough question. Was that? Who wrote Chaitanya Bhagavat? Come on. No? Devotees, I'm asking devotees. People who are new, that's fine. Vrindavan Das Thakur. Please know that. Who wrote Chaitanya Mangal, by the way? There's a book, Chaitanya Mangal. Most popular book in Bengali, Chaitanya Mangal, not only Chaitanya Bhagavat. You might know. What's that? Who is that? Chaitanya Mangal is written by Lochan Das Thakur. That's, if any book which people read in Bengali, Chaitanya Mangal. Not Chaitanya Bhagavat, not Chaitanya Charitamrita. You know why? Because Chaitanya Mangal is all in songs. So he used to live near Katwa, near this Jajgram, and his village was Kogram. We went there to his village and I saw, it's a very nice village. And he wrote there Chaitanya Mangal and it's beautiful songs. And we sing in songbook, there is Lochan Das, Lochan Kahe, what was that song? Famous song. No, that is Vasudev Ghosh. Lochan Das Thakur, Elo or Gallo. Yeah, that is Lochan Das Thakur and famous, yeah. So there are many songs, okay. So, you have Parashar Muni. Father of? Yes. Who is father of Parashar Muni? By the way, it's a tough question. So, actually, Prabhu, actually you should do a quiz. You should give an exam, regularly after every month. It is good to assess it's very good to assess what's happening, and then people will be inspired. They have exams and they will know, where they are, how much they know. Then you can take a test and mark them. Parama Karuna. Parama Karuna Bahudui Jana. That is by Lochan Das Thakur. What's the last line? Parama Karuna Bahudui Jana. Lochan Kahe. Apana Karama Bunjay Shamana Kahe Lochana Dasa. Okay, so Vishnu Purana, remember this. And this definition is a beautiful definition of God, which Prabhupada quotes again and again and again. Now this definition has this word Sannam. You know this Sannam? Sannam, it means, Sannam word comes from Sanskrit. It means Sat plus Nam. Sat, Sat. Sat means what? Truth. So God is truth. His name is truth. And that is where all religions in the world, they invoke the name of God. In fact, if you ask any Sufi, if you ask any Islamic person, if you ask them what's the shortcut to attain God, they will say invoke the names of God. Christians also, at least the Orthodox Christians, and even our place. So God's name they're talking about. But then they're talking about this bhag. Bhag means what? Bhag means a person who has 6 things. In Sanskrit, bhag means 6. Bhaga means 6. So a person who has 6 things. He is called God. Now what are those 6 things? Six opulences, let's say. In full. And that's the word itingana. He is having in full. Iti means this. And itingana, but iti means this. Samagrasya, this word means in full. In full, he has these things in full. Now what do you mean when we say Krishna has in full? What do you mean by that?
Even if you remove something out of it, it still will be full.
Okay, fine. Full means if you remove something, still it is full. Full means basically, technically, if you say Krishna has everything in full, that means Krishna has everything. That means if he's good, he's all good. If he's bad, he's completely mad and bad. He can really screw you up. That means full. Whatever he does, it's in complete force. If he gives mercy, he will give mercy. And if he wants to take mercy, you can't stop him. If he wants to nurture you, nurture you. If he wants to destroy you, he will destroy. He will even erase your soul. He can do that. He really decides to do that. So that's God. He's softer than rose and harder than thunderbolt. Mahaprabhu says, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that means full. So he's having in full. Now that's one of the understanding when we say God is Purna. Purna? Om Purnamidam Purnamada. He's full. Another understanding of full is whatever qualities he has. I mean, he has all qualities and he has also contradictory qualities. Contradictions are there because he's having everything. So just now I told he's merciful and at the same time he's completely harsh. Now how do you get this together? So he's having contradictory things. That is why we say he's achintya. Achintya means inconceivable. We cannot conceive. He is our philosophy's name is what? Achintya Vedabhed. So why is called achintya? God is called achintya because he's inconceivable. Now what do you mean by inconceivable? Inconceivable doesn't mean that you can't define him. Generally people think inconceivable means you can't conceive him. But then people think you can't conceive him means you can't think about him. You got my point? But that's a Mayavadi concept. We say God is inconceivable not because we cannot conceive him. But we say inconceivable because we can know him but we cannot understand him. There's a difference. People say he's unknowable. We say no, he's knowable but we cannot understand him fully because he's having contradictions. How can you understand him, Krishna, when he is... I mean to say, there's a Prabhupada quotes that in Krishna book. Or somewhere Prabhupada quotes that, it's in Acharya's books, that Krishna says, I'm a brahmachari to gopis. And gopi says, well, you know what? They were all laughing. You're brahmachari, you're crazy. But then he turned out to be brahmachari because he told Yamuna, gopis told Yamuna Krishna is brahmachari and she gave the way. You know this no pastime, Chandogya Upanishad. You don't know this. In Chandogya Upanishad it comes, in Vedas it comes. So gopis want to cross the river and it was a whole pastime, but gopis want to cross the river to meet Durvasa Muni. Krishna is standing as a boatman. And gopis tell, please help us go around Yamuna. Krishna says, well, boat is closed, everything is closed and you can't go and just finish. So then gopis say, well, then how can we go? Do you have any idea? Krishna says, well, there's an idea. You tell to Yamuna, Krishna is brahmachari. And they were laughing. They were saying, come on, this is complete lie. This is useless lie. So Krishna, you try. If it is truth, she will give the way. And they told Yamuna, Krishna is brahmachari, she gave the way. And they were surprised. And then they asked Krishna, what's happening? It's a complete lie, we know. And then Krishna said, well, I mean to say, this story is coming in Upanishad, it's not in Puranas. And then the Upanishad says, Krishna is simultaneously both. He's Kamdev and he's Brahmachari both. How is that? Can you understand? No. So that's why he's called inconceivable. Inconceivable because he is beyond logic. You understand? Conceivable means logic. Anything beyond logic is inconceivable. Now he is beyond, let's say he is beyond our logic. Is he really beyond logic? Can somebody understand that? Some people can understand that. Pure devotees. But not by logic. Logic is inaccessible to logic. That can only be understood by, let's say, if you want to talk in philosophical language, by intuition. Intuition, intuition. 𝗙𝗪𝗏. It's not by logic. And that is where all the saints, when they speak about love of God, they say that you have to suspend your intelligence. Intelligence cannot go there. It can't go. Intelligence is a good friend. It can guide you, but it cannot take you there. That's how it goes. Sometimes intelligence is a block. Bhagavatam calls intelligence as a prostitute also. Because it doesn't allow you to go forward. That's why there's a saying, paralysis through analysis. You have heard that? Through analysis. And this, if you think too much, you will not be able to do things. Am I right? You will get fear and, it's. So intelligence is there, but intelligence has to help and not to destroy your emotions. Am I right? And that's what it is said. It is said, there's a beautiful example given, that devotion is like a guitar, is like a piano, guitar. And the strings of the guitar, there are two strings there. And one is, actually three. One is mercy, the other is love, and the third is humbleness. And you have to play all the strings to take the music. But the finger you are using to play it, that is intelligence. So use intelligence to actually nurture your emotions. Which verse in Gita says that? Can you tell me? Quiz. Which verse in Gita says that? This is Gita. Gita also has everything, by the way. Gita has Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya has Gita, it's all there. Okay, anybody can tell me. Quiz, or I'll tell you, next time I'll tell you homework. Think about that. I can tell you, but if you think about that, it'll be easy. I'll tell you after this seminar. You ask me. Keep on thinking. Okay, so that's about it goes. So this is definition. So in full. So what, this is simple verse, I'll just go ahead. Krishna has in full 6 things. What Aishwarya means? Quick, you can tell me. Opulence. He has all opulence. Viryasya means he has all power, virya. Yasha means he has all fame. He is famous, except earth. Here people are really messed up. But bhuvar swaha, maharjana tapasatya, tal vital sutal taradal rasal, everybody knows he is God. They are clear. They are clear of this fact. And Shriya means? Shriya means beauty. Beauty. Yeah, beauty. Shri means wealth also, but Shri means beauty. So he is all beautiful. Jnana means he is all. Jnana means what? What's jnana? Knowledge. Really? Think about it. Okay. Jnana is wisdom, not knowledge. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, am I right? And what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Knowledge is basically theory. Wisdom is practical application of that theory, am I right? Wisdom is experience. So you can be very knowledgeable, but absolutely have no wisdom at all. It can happen. You can be a foolish person. So just like So I passed my medical college. So when I passed, so we became a doctor. So we had knowledge but zero wisdom. We couldn't treat anybody. I mean, so we even didn't know how to put injection after becoming doctors. And then when we went for internship, then we learned actually how to do things. Otherwise, we had no idea, what we learned. If you ask any medical person who just passed, he will have no idea what's happening. So it's, I think, in every field. In engineering also, you are doing something else in your job. Okay, so, and sixth is Vairagya. He has everything, but he's completely detached from everything. That's again contradiction, am I right? How can you have everything, but you're completely detached? That's God. So anybody who has these six things, he's God. Now you got the point? Remember this verse. This verse at least you have to remember. Otherwise, don't give them prasad, Prabhu. No, don't take. What's the use, I mean to say, then you're a burden. Why do you have to eat? This verse you have to remember. This verse at least. This everybody should know. Am I right? It's at least this. This Prabhupada is like. Yeah, ask them to. Yeah. They have to learn. You see the point. I'll tell you one thing. If in our centers we give teaching to people, thousands will come to us. It's not just attraction. This is things attract. Prasadam, nice things, and that's important, Prabhupada said. But the soul of everything is knowledge. And that's what will make us different from other Hindu temples, am I right? Otherwise, we can't compete with them if we go to structure. Their temples are very big. In America, they're very big, very opulent. Balaji temples and all these, they have spent a lot of money. We can't compete in that, but anyway, we are not in competition, by the way. But the whole point is our job is to give teaching. And people will come to us. Okay, so this general definition. Okay, so now, let me ask you, what's the philosophical definition? Any idea? From Gita, philosophical definition. 𝗙𝗲𝗪𝗶𝗶𝗹 मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते. Yeah, you can tell that, but it doesn't capture fully. It doesn't capture God fully, isn't it? It just says, I'm the origin. Am I right? God is more than that. Philosopher means essence. Am I right? Tattva, what's the essence of God? That's a function. So, doesn't really. What's the definition of God according to Gita? You might not really get this, because when I'll tell you, then you'll know. You know this verse, perhaps, but I'll tell you why this verse is taken as definition of God. Okay, here is a verse. 9.18. Gatir bharta prabhu sakshi nivasa sharanam suhit prabha pralaya sthanam nidhanam bijamayam. In that verse, aham sarvasya prabhava, it's just prabhava pralaya sthanam. Am I right? It's nothing more than that. Okay, this is a beautiful verse, a definition of God. Why actually not I, but all acharyas choose this verse by defining God through Gita. You know why? Because this is spoken by whom? God Himself. So God Himself is defining Himself. That's why it's the most important verse. There is one more verse which is used from Gita to define God, and that is Param Brahma Param Dhama. You know that? Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. But that verse is spoken by Arjun. So because that's spoken by Arjun, so it's not really so authentic. And I mean to say, devotee can speak anything. People can say he's a devotee, so definitely he will like to. Yeah. So you can say every servant likes to call his master as you're the greatest, but this is spoken by Krishna Himself. And all acharyas, Vallabha, Madhva, and Mark, all of them choose this verse. This is a beautiful verse, and many acharyas says you can offer this verse to Krishna. You can speak as a prayer, and very nice verse. And what that means is, here's a meaning. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation and the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed. Doesn't it define God? Everything is there. Gati means I am the goal. Bharta means I am the I am the maintainer. Prabhu means I am the controller. 𝗪𝗓 means I am the witness. 𝗪𝗏 means I am the refuge. 𝗓𝗏 means I am the, I am the abode. Or 𝗬𝗏 means I am the best friend. 𝗪𝗏 means I am the creator. �પ્રલય means I am the annihilator. સ્થાનમ means I am the maintainer. નિધાનમ means I am the resting place. Bijam means I am the source of everything. Seed. Avyam means I am eternal. So beautiful verse. This verse has many meanings, by the way. This verse have at least 8 meanings, what I know. Different meanings. Totally different meanings. This I am giving you just one meaning. Prabhupada has touched on one meaning. But at least there are 8 meanings, beautiful meanings. One meaning of this verse is from the perspective of love. We are defining God, isn't it? But the same verse is used to define love. Same. Absolutely. And that's a very nice verse. So if you want to take this verse to define love, then gati means the goal of life is love. Bharta means Krishna, people who are walking on the path of love, Krishna maintains them. Krishna maintains their desire to love him. Otherwise, illusion can destroy that. Am I right? Prabhu, controller, that desire to love, how to express it, that Krishna teaches as a controller within the heart. You have to express that desire to love, and so on and on. That's how this verse goes. So please remember this. This is a philosophical definition. Read the purport. That's very nice. Yeah. Okay. What's the power definition from Bhagavat now? Now we come to Bhagavat. This is from Gita. Now we have defined God according to Gita. Gita says, what is God? Okay, we have done that. Now Bhagavat comes and Bhagavatam says, okay, what is God? That's fine. We have understood that. But let's go a little deeper. What is God? But then let's talk about how he is thinking. You see? Okay, now we have defined God, but then how really is thinking? Now that's important for us to know. Am I right? To do devotion? Otherwise, how will you do devotion if you don't know how he thinks and what kind of person he is? So Bhagavatam gives the power perspective, and here is a power perspective. First verse, famous verse from Bhagavat, 1.1.1, famous. Janmadhyasya anvayadhritascha vigyaswarat. And then you have to remember the first verse. Anybody knows the first verse of Bhagavat? Full? You can say?
Not entirely, but few words.
Speak. What's that? Oh, it's a word Swarata. I can't hear properly. Anyway, then Tene Brahmaya de adi kave muyanti at surya tejovari mridam. Yeah. Okay, you know that. Okay. And that tune, yeah, you can. Okay, fine. Fine, that's okay. That's how you remember the verses. Okay, so this is the power perspective, these first 2 lines. This line. Otherwise, you can. Janmadi means he is a cause of Janma. Janma Adi. Adi means birth and destruction, both. And then Asya. So this word is important. Annevad and Itarata. Annevad means directly. Itarata means indirectly. He's a cause of creation directly, indirectly. Directly, now what that means. Now you see the verse is talking about his power. He's creating everything. Directly. Directly means what? That he creates the elements of this creation. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, and then everything. So this Brahmaji cannot do. Brahma cannot make earth, water, fire, and ether. If you see earth and water and fire, they are very unique. I mean to say, isn't it? To even conceive of something like fire. How do you conceive that there should be fire and water? And Brahma couldn't do anything. So Krishna said, okay, fine. At the time of creation, Brahma was confused what to do. Krishna says, okay, I will provide you all the elements, and now you mix it and make things. So let's say Krishna is an architect and Brahma is a civil engineer. The first civil engineer is Brahmaji. That's how it goes. And Krishna told, okay, here are the bricks and cement. earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, and then ego, and you mix it and make different types of bodies and things. And so Brahmaji did. And Brahmaji said, I don't know how to do. Krishna said, don't worry, I'll give you the plan also. So you just do it. And then Bhagavad says, Krishna gave him, and then Krishna did a handshake with Brahmaji. He says, okay, now contract done. And okay, very nice, thank you. Done. The Prabhupada writes handshake, by the way. Krishna did a contract with him. So Sarga, yeah. So that's primary creation, secondary creation. So directly, you got my point? Directly, indirectly. That's how it goes. So he expresses his power directly and indirectly, but he's all powerful. And then abhigya, this word is important, by the way. Abhigya means what? Abhigya, this gya means knowledge. Gya means knowledge. Abhigya means, abhi is used to indicate everywhere. Abhigya means, gya means not just knowledge, gya means consciousness. He's conscious. Abhi means all around. He's conscious of everything. What is going? Yes, sarvagya. Abhigya. Sarvagya, you know this? So he created, and then he knows everything, what's going everywhere. That's his power. Omniscient. Am I right? Omnipotent. What's that?
Omnipresent.
Yeah. Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. And this Swarat. Swarat means what? Swarat means independent. King, Samrat is independent. He is not dependent on anything. He creates fire, water, air, ether from nothing. That's his beauty. He can do that. He can create from nothing. And he can take everything into nothing. Can God do that or not? He can do that. Can he erase your soul? What do you say about that? Can? Can or not? How do you know that? Is there any hints Krishna is giving you that I can do that?
One of the muktis is like merging with the God.
No, I'm asking, is Krishna giving you a hint in your life that I can do this? Be careful. If I get mad at you, I can erase you. That's all.
Did you say erase?
Erase.
But aren't we eternal parts?
That's what the question is. That's why I'm asking you. Soul is eternal, you have heard this, am I right? That's why I'm asking you whether he can erase you or not. But if you say no, then how is God? He should be able to do everything.
Parts and parcel of him.
No, but the whole point is, can he do everything? If he cannot do anything, then then he's not God, because God definition is he should be able to do everything. All possibilities exist in him. So that's why my question is, can he do that or not? But then the whole question is Nitya Nityananam, soul is eternal. We talk about that, but then there is a problem there. So this is a very big question. But by the way, Krishna gives you a hint of his power. I can do that. You know how? Where? Daily is giving you when you sleep.
And you totally go.
You
don't know yourself.
are deep sleep. You don't know yourself. You are gone. And he says, I can do that eternally to you. You're gone. That is his power. So if you want to know God is powerful, you can know in your sleep. That's why he says. You can know every day. Actually, Quran says, Allah says that, anyway, I'm quoting Quran. So it's in Bhagavatam also, but I'm just quoting Quran. I like that surah. So Allah says, I give the evidence of my existence to you everywhere, every second. But man is so foolish that he cannot see it. And Quran also says one thing. Allah says, I'm there right in front of your eyes, but you cannot see it. Bible says the same thing. But ye shall not see it. Bhagavatam says the same thing. Absolutely same thing. What's that? Yoga Maya Samavrita? What's that verse? Avajananti Ma. Naam Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrita. Same thing. I'm there, but I'm covered. I'm there. Actually, Krishna is there. Krishna walks before us. We can't see him. Am I right? So that's the power. You understand power perspective? He's independent. He's independent of everything. He can do anything. And he gives us hint of that. So he's independent. And Satyam Param Dhimahi. He's Param Satya. Param Satya means? Satya means truth. Param means? Param means supreme truth. Why do we call God as supreme truth? Not just truth. What do you mean by ultimate?
There is no beyond him.
Okay, that you can say. But we call God a supreme truth because the fact that Krishna is God never changes. Any other truth in this world is relative. Am I right? Truth in this world can change according to circumstances. It depends on the circumstance. It can change. Even laws of nature, they change in different mediums. Am I right? The speed of light is constant. That's a truth. But in liquids, it changes. In different mediums, it changes. It reduces. It's not constant. Even sound, different mediums is different speed. Am I right? So truth is relative. It changes. But God, Krishna is God, it will never change. That's all. That's why it's called supreme truth. Never changes. That's why it's called the supreme truth. Yeah, absolute truth actually. Absolute is a word there. Okay, so power perspective. What about mercy perspective? This is a verse. Please note this verse, 2:10-12. This is from Bhagavatam. A beautiful verse. If you ask Madhva which verse you like in Bhagavatam, this is one of the verse. His pet verse. And all acharyas quote this verse to express the mercy of Lord. What this verse says, Dravyam karma 𝗙𝗪𝗀𝗃 𝗪𝗶𝗹𝗪 yad anugraha santi na santi adopeksha. One should definitely know that all material ingredients, activities, time, modes, living entities who are meant to enjoy them all exist by mercy only. As soon as he does not care for them, everything becomes non-existent. It's nice, no? Yad anugraha santi, by mercy exist. Now what does? 5 things. Dravyam means all ingredients. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. Gross, subtle ingredients. Karma means whatever you do. Activities. Kala means time. Swabhava means what? Your nature. Whatever you have nature now. Whatever modes of material nature. And Jiva means soul. Free will. Now this verse says everything exists because of mercy of Lord. I mean to say, because Krishna is thinking about us, we are existing. The day he stops thinking about us, everything will dissolve. We'll just vanish in air. And that's basically, you know what, this verse is also liked by quantum physicists, by the way. Heisenberg, you know Heisenberg? Prabhu knows. Heisenberg, physicist, who was like one of the quantum physicists. Actually, they knew this verse. They read this verse, and of course, they also read Upanishads. Most of them, knowledge is coming from Upanishads. But verses like this, and many people comment that this word exists because God is seeing it. According to quantum physics, if you observe things, it exists. If you don't observe, it doesn't exist. In simple words. So if I am not seeing this mic, it is not there. As soon as I see it, is there. Now quantum physics says like that. Yeah, uncertainty principle. So why this word exists? Somebody is seeing it. Now we are not seeing entire word. So who is seeing? So David Bohm and all these people said, okay, well, God is seeing it. That's why it exists. So many theistic people, they came and that's interesting. And Bhagavatam says that. Because Krishna is seeing us and is thinking about us, we exist. As soon as he doesn't close his eyes, we are finished. He is there as super soul. He's seeing us. And that's why our form is there. You see form, as soon as he stops seeing us, our form will dissolve. That's death. Death, super soul is gone. And your body decays and dissolves. Am I right? Finish. So that's how it goes. So this verse is important. And you see here this verse, and that is why one reporter, they came to Prabhupada, and that reporter said to Prabhupada, it's so difficult to remember God. Prabhupada said, it's so difficult to forget God. Because if you know this verse, then everywhere is this mercy, am I right? Everything exists due to God. This form of the table is due to, why this form is there of this table? Because Krishna is seeing it. That's why this form can happen. There can be no form without God seeing it. Why we can hear? Because God is seeing sound. God is seeing the sound. That's why sound exists. Otherwise there can be no sound. Am I right? So devotees of Lord can see the mercy of Lord everywhere. Even in a soul, we exist because God is seeing us. He is 𝗙𝗪. So when a devotee sees himself in the mirror, he remembers mercy of God. Simple. Now that requires little training. This is a verse, but you have to be conscious of this fact. So there is nothing which is not sustaining on mercy of God. If you see anything without being connected to mercy of God, that's Maya. That's all. That's Maya. Even Maya is also connected to God. Am I right? Even to see Maya disconnected from God is Maya. That's foolishness, because one of the meaning of Maya is mercy, by the way. Maya is not stopping us to go from God. Maya is actually helping us to go near God. If you know what is happening. If you're foolish, then it's stopping you, of course. Just like mother. A child thinks Mama is stopping me from playing. But she's not stopping. She's telling you don't play because she wants you to become a good, educated man. Am I right? Don't spoil your life. So it depends how you see. So yeah, this is mercy. Am I right? This is good verse, mercy perspective. Everything depends on his yad anugrata santi na santi 𝗙𝗪𝗪. If he neglects, everything dissolves. Oh, by the way, have you seen that movie? So one of the devotees was telling me, he's a filmmaker, so he was telling me, one of my devotee, this movie, this Avengers, you have seen? Yes, he has seen. Yeah, devotees don't see movies. Avenger.
Avengers.
That was it. Thanos.
Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos. Yeah, that devotee was telling me. So I thought, yeah, it's like Bhagavatam. So in the end, what happens is Thanos, he gets all the rings, and then finally everything dissolves. Everything stops and dissolves. And that's how God is. So at the end of destruction, what Krishna does, he doesn't have to do anything. He just closes his eyes and takes his mind out of everything. He just stops thinking about everything. Everything dissolves. And that is why it is said this creation subsists on the sankalpa of God. Sankalp, that word is used, or mercy, you can use both of them. He simply has to do this. When he has to create, he simply opens his eyes and he thinks, let there be light. Am I right? And there is creation. That's what Bible begins, let there be light, and there is light. And there is a sense in that actually, so I was talking to a Christian, one of the Christian, he met me and he says, I can't understand Bible, what's this? I told, okay, I'll make you understand Bible. So then I asked, see, the first statement is, let there be light, and there was light. So I told, now what do you think about that? So I told him, well, you know what's happening? God is thinking of light with all his mercy and compassion. And because of that mercy and compassion, that light manifests. He simply has to think, he doesn't have to do anything. And then he understood, this means. You see, if you understand Bhagavatam, you can understand any scripture in the word. If you understand Chaitanya Bhagavatam, that's beautiful. So then I was talking about Bible, his Bible. Mostly people don't know Bible also. I mean, if you are in America, you should know Bible, am I right? And that's...
Christian.
Yeah, yes, see.
I was raised a Christian.
So then it doesn't make a sense that when we talk to Christians, we should know Bible. Otherwise, how? That's why very few Westerners are there in our institution now. Indians are coming because we don't know what to talk with them. We are not on the same page. So when we tell them, you see, Bible and Bhagavatam are talking the same thing, I have to show them how it is talking. Then you can say, okay, good, let's talk about it. So like that, mercy. Okay, I'll just Last is sweetness perspective. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Adi Leela 4.6. Prabhupada writes, thus he is known as supremely jubilant and the most merciful of all. Rasik Shekhar Krishna Paramakarun 𝗍𝗲𝗍𝗀𝗃 𝗪𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃. Now this is a sweetness perspective. Now this word is the most important here. This is how we define God as. Rasik Shekhar. So what does that mean? Rasik means what? Actually, Prabhupada writes in the purport, God in Vedas is defined as Raso Vaisaha. You know that? Raso Vaisaha. God is Rasa. Rasa means sweetness. God is sweetness. Now you might say, God is sweetness. What does that mean? Okay, tell me one thing. What is his body made of? 5 elements, isn't it? This body is 5 elements of flesh and bones, okay? So, what is body of Brahma made of? No, Brahma, no. Brahma's body is made of ether and sound. He has an ethereal body, sound. Sun God's body is made of fire, Prabhupada says. So, Krishna's body is made of what? That's the whole question. Now, so he is made of, okay, he's not made of anything material, but then what? He's made of sweetness. But then we cannot conceive what's sweetness. How can you make somebody out of sweetness? I mean, even Brahma's body we cannot conceive. How can you make how can Brahma be made of ether? What does that mean? So Krishna's body is made of sweetness. That's how it goes. He's sweet from top to bottom. If Krishna comes to you and you manage to touch him, you will simply feel sweetness. Not salty, not something, it's just sweet. Now, that's called Raso Vaisa. He's Rasa. He's sweetness. But the whole word used here is Rasik. You see this word Rasik? Rasik, this Ka is there here, Ka, Rasik. So what does Rasik means? When Rasa you join Ka, it becomes what? Rasik. Rasik means he's not just sweetness, but he has a habit of tasting sweetness. And also making others taste this sweetness. Because he's full of sweetness, that is why he wants to distribute it. Any gentleman, if he has something, he wants to share. Am I right? And in Prabhupada's language, any rascal, Prabhupada said, if he has something, he wants to keep it. So because Krishna is made of sweetness, he wants to share it. And why he wants to share it? Because this is the next word, Paramakarun. He's supremely, Param means supremely, Karun means merciful. You see the point? In sweetness, there's a mercy perspective also. I told you, all definitions are there in sweetness. So because he's so merciful, he wants to share something what he has. Definitely, isn't it? If you're merciful and if you're rich, you want to share money. If you are having a lot of sweet shops, and if you're merciful, what you will do? You'll distribute sweets. That's all. If you're a criminal and if you're merciful, what do you do? So you see the point there. So that's why 2 words are Rasik Shekhar Krishna Paramakarun. Because he's merciful, that's why he wants to share something what he has. And what he has is rasa. And that is why it's called Rasik. He wants to give, he wants to share his happiness, his sweetness with you. And you can imagine if Krishna shares even 0.000000001% of his sweetness, he'll not be able to contain it. Am I right? That's his sweetness. Rasik. And then it means Shekhar. Shekhar means what? Shikhar means peak. Shekhar means topmost. He is in tasting sweetness, in giving sweetness, nobody can compete with him. I mean to say, there are people in this world who love others and, to be loved. What do they say? love and to be loved. Am I right? There are people who believe and they do, and there are many demigods, but Krishna is the most expert in that and the best of all. That is why in common parlance, in Vallabh Sampradaya, Vishnu is called as the god of power, Krishna is called as the god of love. There are many books written on that. God of love. Because he is in habit of giving others sweetness and tasting sweetness. That's why what he wants from us is actually our service, but that service, if it is done with a sweet mood, that's what he's looking for. That is called love, by the way. In a very general sense. It's not a definition, but that's called love. It's not just service. You're serving Krishna, which is in a way in which he feels very happy and it appears sweet to him. Am I right? Krishnendriya tare vancha, tare boli, dhare prem naam. Am I right? So that is called love. I mean to say, you can serve Krishna in a way which he doesn't like. Am I right? You can do that. I mean, you can serve Krishna in a way what you like. But you have to serve him in a way what he likes. And also not just what he likes, but in a way which appears very sweet to him. I might like orange juice, and you can make orange juice and give it to me. Okay, that's nice. But if you bring orange juice in a glass made of gold, and then there's a silver plate, then it's wow, isn't it? It's not just a juice. So that's called love. So when you are in love with God, you don't just serve him. You serve him in a way what he likes, but at the same time you serve in a very sweet way. That's the whole point there.
You offer it along with your love for him?
I'm defining love. That's love. And for that, you should know what exactly he wants. Otherwise, how will you serve him how he likes? And especially in a way, you should understand what his desires are. What exactly he likes. Okay, he likes orange juice in a golden plate. And then with some flowers around. Okay, let's make it. Am I right? Then he'll be very happy. And that's why you need to understand his desires, his thoughts. That is love. That is where sweetness comes there. Anyway, that's another that's a definition of love, where it's a different seminar. I'll talk about definition of love. So that's why people who don't understand desire of God and his pattern of thinking, you can't serve him properly and you can't attain love. And that, how do you know? By scriptures, by knowledge.
Isn't rasa defined as mellows, different mellows?
Yeah, that's also there.
It's not just sweetness, but...
No, it's all mellows are madhur. It depends on sweetness only. So yeah, that's expression of sweetness, like that. So fine, he's Rasik Shekhar. He just wants from us one thing. He wants us to serve him in a sweet manner. But to make it sweet, you have to be trained and expert. You have to, that's what Radharani does. She is a best servant. You see, serve him in the best and sweetest way, because she understands Krishna and she knows everything about him. And that we have to learn, and then things happen. Okay, so that's sweetness perspective, and that's why Srila Prabhupada said, and remember this is from Science of Self-Realization. We must simply try to understand God in truth. Prabhupada is using the word understand, am I right? It's a big word. Try to understand his appearance, disappearance, functions. When we understand him in truth, we immediately enter the kingdom of God. So to understand God, it begins with definition of God. Am I right? And that's why this seminar is there. If you don't know how to define God, then you can't proceed. How do you proceed? So that's why I made this seminar. So this seminar, you know why I made? Because of three things. Something I'm telling you, but something I'm not telling you, but it's a hidden agenda there. And the hidden agenda is, What I'm telling you is how to, I've told you two things. One is define things. Isn't it? Define everything. Write it in your copy, otherwise you'll be super confused. You think you know, but you don't know. And second thing, I told you how to define God. And the hidden agenda was to inspire you to read Prabhupada books. I have told everything from Prabhupada. Did I tell you something out of Prabhupada books? No, it's there. You have to read it. Prabhupada does everything. So that was something hidden there. And one more hidden agenda was to help you understand that you have to understand everything from a very broad perspective. If you don't do that, वो हिंदी में कहता है लकीर के फ़कीर सुना? What do we say in English? लकीर के फ़कीर को क्या कहते हैं English में? Is there any some parable or some metaphor in English?
Equivalent.
Parallel, equivalent to this लकीर के फ़कीर? What do we say? I don't know. I don't know in English. Like a horse, like horse. Like horse, there's horse.
Blinders on?
Huh?
Blinders on?
Yeah.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, like that. It can't see and it's just... And that doesn't help. You have to have a very broad perspective.
One point.
No, not one point. Narrow vision. Narrow is a narrow... something. Narrow. So it doesn't help. Have a broad, comprehensive outlook at Krishna consciousness. So that will come. Okay, so that's about defining God. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. So any questions, any comments, and I'll finish here just 2 minutes and then I'm done. And this is your center anyway. Now you got a place. Any questions, any comments?
Please correct me. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I remember the impression that halfway, the same thing sometimes, some object is giving me happiness, and after some time the same object is not giving me the
Happiness.
So these kind of switching patterns are happening. Does that mean that there is someone inside who is actually playing that, giving happiness, not giving happiness on the same object? It is not me actually who is feeling that, who is triggering that happiness and seizing that happiness.
Yeah.
But
Krishna has a button. Presses a button. Oh, Krishna doesn't press himself. Anvaya Vyatirek, indirectly. Krishna, there's a button inside your head. So when he presses it, you feel happy and lusty and whatever.
Is it correct?
And when he doesn't press, then you are just... But then he doesn't do himself because he doesn't want to do this small job. It's a peon's job. Press, there's no intelligence. Krishna says, Maya, you do it. And Maya says, okay, I'll do it, okay. So when to press the button, when not to press the button. Krishna says, okay, here's a manual. Here is Gita. He gives Gita to Maya. Maya is perfect in Gita, by the way. Maya knows more Gita than us. She's perfect. And Krishna says, anybody who actually doesn't follow Gita, if he goes 1 millimeter from this, press this button. That's all. She is Vaishnavi. She is Pakka in Gita. She keeps on watching. As soon as you break the rule, she presses button and then you start feeling material sentiments, lust, happiness, and then she removes. But the whole point in this is, it is your desire. You break the rules, you want that object, she presses a button, and you feel so happy, and that's it. But the game you start, it's not Maya responsible. She's just looking, okay, what do you want? When do you want? How do you want? Whether you are following Gita or not, press the button. 𝗦𝗪𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 Sangaste shubhjayate sanga sanjayate kamaha. As soon as you start thinking of a material object, Krishna says to Maya, press the button. She presses the button and you get kama, lust for that object. She's not responsible. You are responsible. So everything is under his control, by the way. Everything is under his control. That's all. Nothing is out of his control. Whatever is happening with you, whatever will happen with you, everything is under control. Am I right?
Yeah, that means my own happiness is not mine, my own sorrow is not mine. It is just under some influence. I'm experiencing those feelings, right?
You are, but you are the cause of that.
Okay, I'm the cause of that because
Yeah.
I desired that one.
Yeah, so then that's all. You're the cause of that, and so you have to undergo that. That's all. It's a big programming, isn't it? It's a matrix. We are really in a matrix. I mean to say, it's not just, we are not here, and that's not the whole point, but there's some programming going on. Otherwise, you see, we sleep. Yeah, how do we sleep? I mean to say, that's the whole point. In sleep, we forget ourselves, and that's the most difficult thing to do. Am I right? You can't forget yourself. And if you think I should forget myself, then you will start remembering yourself more. How do you do that? You can't do that. But then you forget yourself daily. And most interesting thing is not that you forget yourself, but you forget yourself and you become refreshed. Ideally, you should be full of fear. Am I right? You forget your name, then come on. If you forget your name, you'll be, I forgot my name and address. It will bring you fear. But here you forget yourself daily and you become refreshed. This is something contradictory going on. And it's not that now you forget yourself and then, so next day you should be fearful of sleeping. If I tell you, okay, I'll do something and you forget yourself, you will just run away. Let's get out from here. I don't want to forget myself. But daily you forget yourself, you sleep, and the next day again you want to sleep, and you are not fearful that, okay, today again I'll forget myself. You don't get fear because that's controlled by Krishna. He's doing that. So he is under control. What you are hearing now and trying to understand, that's controlled by Krishna. Krishna wants you to understand, you understanding. If he doesn't want you to understand, you can keep on hearing, you'll not understand any damn thing. That's what we have to understand. Otherwise, everything is under control. We become perfect. But we forget this, no? We think things are happening by chance, or, it doesn't happen like that. Any devotee who criticizes you, Krishna is doing that. It's not that devotee. No. It is Krishna, Maya. Krishna is seeing that you have to learn something, and through that devotee, he makes you criticize and then tries to develop tolerance in you. He wants you to be tolerant, so uses people. So that's how devotee looks. So he's never disturbed. That's all. Finish. But we forget this fact. That's why we get disturbed. So that's how it goes. Am I right? Okay. Yeah, Prabhu.
You said that when Krishna stops saying, then everything they stop saying?
Stop seeing in the sense, if he stops seeing, stop thinking, stop seeing. You see, we are using words here. Words are very insufficient and they land into contradiction because we say at the beginning of creation there was nothing and only God. But then we know that Prakriti is also eternal in subtle energy form. So scripture says about that, ikshata, this word is used. And Vedanta Sutra uses this word, ikshate and anar shabdam. This is a sutra. When God stops seeing, everything gets destroyed. There's a sutra there. And now literally what God does, he stops seeing, but at the same time he closes his eyes and things dissolve. But at the same time, if you say, well, is he thinking about creation or not? Am I right? That's what you're asking? He's seeing and not seeing both.
Does it apply to pralay?
Yeah, pralay. Yeah, pralay.
At the time of pralay, the souls do not get destroyed. They enter into his abdomen. Right?
Yeah.
So they don't get destroyed.
And they don't get destroyed, yeah. They don't get destroyed. Krishna, out of his mercy, doesn't destroy them. Otherwise, they'll get destroyed. He keeps us. Because of Krishna, we are eternal. That eternalness that also Krishna has given. Am I right? Madhva says that our eternal nature also subsists on Krishna. From his eternal nature, he has given a small fraction of eternalness to soul. Okay, here you take it. To fire, he has given, when he made fire, Krishna said, okay, when he made his creation, he wanted to give gifts to everybody. When he made fire, he said, okay, my dear fire, I give you the fire of my love, a fraction of the fire of my love for my devotees, and became hot. And that's how fire, when it's explained in Vedas, there are many suktas on Agni Suktas. And when you see Agni Sukta, they are defining about love there. And why fire and love? And that's there. When Krishna made water, then Krishna, okay, I want to give you some gift. And Krishna gave a fraction of sweetness to water. That's where it started flowing. Sweet flows. Sweetness flows. Am I right? This every time I mean to say this word flow is used with love and sentiments and feelings. It's not used with fire. So of course, fire is the heat of love. Water is the sweetness of love. Everything is love. I have told you. All creation is made out of love. And that's why devotee can perceive love everywhere. Sky, when he made sky, he thought, oh my dear Lord, my sky. Oh yeah, Saint Francis. Oh brother sky, oh brother sun, sister moon. You know this? He said. So he said, Srila Prabhupada said he was a pure devotee. So when Krishna made sky, so what he gave? He said, okay, I give you the broadness of my love. My love can accommodate everybody. And I give you a fraction of that love to you. And sky became broad. So that's how devotee sees. Everything sustains on mercy and love. Wherever he sees, he can see Krishna. 𝗪𝗲𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗔 𝗪. Yeah.
Even at the end of Prabhupada, what is that verse where he comes down on the palm leaf and he's sucking his toe?
So yeah, at the end of creation, when annihilation.
So even that's
Yeah. Krishna is sucking his toe of the feet because he's thinking what kind of sweetness my feet is having that all devotees are after my sweetness. That's also in all elements, everything. Even you see this gravitation. Krishna made a force gravitation and he says, what should I give you? And he says, okay, I give you the attraction of my love. My love is attractive, and I give you a portion of attraction of that love to you. And gravity became all attractive. So it's all love, by the way. That's a philosophy. That's Vedas talking about, by the way, Upanishads. That's where pure devotee, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗪 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗔, he can see love of God everywhere. That's why winds blow, trees, leaves rustle, because it's all love. Love is 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪. 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 means it cannot be stopped. It's unceasingly flowing. And you can see the working of love everywhere. Because nature is moving. Time is moving. Am I right? Time flows. It doesn't stop. It doesn't jerk. That's love. That's what the nature of love is. That's how it goes. That is Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you have not read that, you will not know what I am talking about. Yeah, what are you asking? Oh, wait a minute. She wanted to ask, yeah.
So, wonderful session and very, very nice. Very eye-opener. Thank you. And you should really write that book. We need that definitions book.
Oh, definition. Yeah, that will be interesting.
So, I have a question. Like, Krishna knows our destiny. Like, when we are born, it said that we know.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah.
So, all this that we are coming here and what is the next path, is everything like predetermined, or it just happens based on what all we...
It is... Oh, okay. This is a good question. Now, here they asked Prabhupada this question in Hyderabad. It's recorded. And that's another thing. Please read also Conversations of Prabhupada. There are many things there. So they asked, does God know everything? And Prabhupada says, yes. And they say, if he knows everything, then we have free will. So we can do anything. So if he knows everything, then we should be already, it's planned, what we are doing. Am I right? So then why we are doing what we are doing? Then why is a choice? Then Prabhupada said no. Prabhupada said okay. Prabhupada asked them question. Prabhupada said okay, fine. So at that time when this discussion was happening, it was summer in India. Summers. Prabhupada says okay, what will come after summers? He said winters. And then what after winters? Spring. And what after spring? Then again summers. Am I right? So Prabhupada says, okay, are you 100% sure this is going to happen? Yeah, pretty much, you're 100%, but this is going to happen. But says, how do you know that? Because we have experienced it whole life, am I right? It never changed. So we can safely say it will happen. Am I right? Because of experience, our limited experience. We can predict. So Krishna has what? Unlimited experience. So although you might do anything you like, but because he has unlimited experience, he can predict what will happen to this person. He can predict by his experience, not because exactly he has already charted out your things and you will be doing according to that. No. You will be doing what you want because there's a free will. Free will. But he can predict because the whole question is people don't have knowledge that they can change their course of action. So people go by reflexes, am I right? So Krishna sees he's a very passionate person. He's having anger 20%, 50% lust, 60% envy. And he experienced people who have 20% anger, 50% this, how they will end. So he says, well, this is going to happen like this. But if he gets knowledge of scriptures, then he can change it. And then Krishna predict, still he can predict because he also knows the permutation combinations. And he can tell that whether this person will go back to God or not just by prediction. His predictive power is very good. Prabhupada says that. Otherwise, we have our free will. We do what we want. According to action, our destiny is decided. But Krishna can predict it. That's how it goes. Is it okay? That's probabilities. Krishna is expert in probability. I mean, in science also, we have a science of probability, am I right? We predict phenomena which are probabilistic. We can predict phenomena. Why can't he predict this? He can predict. He might be having some mathematical equations for that, which we don't know. That's all.
It must be a really complex equation.
Yeah, he can do that.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah, he can predict everybody's, all living entities' future course. He knows what's going to happen. Okay.
Krishna, he cannot, one thing he cannot and will not force, and we have the feeling.
He doesn't force. He doesn't force, he predicts.
No, to love him, is that?
Brahman Brahmite Jeev Kona Bhagavan Jeev Bhakti Lata Pai, whatever. Okay. So when you will get devotion, can you predict this or not? That's a question. So if you say he can predict, okay, next life, suppose he predicts, okay, next life, you're that neighbor of this temple, can he predict when he will get devotion? Now that's a big question now. What do you say about that? If you say no, then you land in a problem because God can do everything. But he can in one sense because he has a lot of experience and he knows what he has done in previous lives, what kind of sukruti he has, and even if he meets devotee, if he doesn't have sukruti, he will not change. So he knows what it is account of sukruti. Sukruti, you understand? Pious credits? Devotional credits, let's talk. He knows this is a level of, if it's devotional credits, suppose if in his mind, he knows that if it's devotional credits less than 40%, he can go to temple, his house is there next door, he'll not change. He can't change because it's below 40%. I mean to say, I'm just giving a random number. I don't know what his formula is. But he can tell exactly what happens. Beyond that, I can't say. it's beyond my reach also. And that's how it goes. But he can tell also. He can also predict that when you will leave devotion. He can understand. He'll see, he's seeing his heart, and he'll see, come on, this devotee has this much envy. Now this devotee has 88.7% envy. And according to my experience, any envious person, if it's above 88.5, he will do offense and he will leave, according to his experience. And he can predict, this devotee is going to leave, that's all. And then he starts planning from now how to bring him back. Before even he has left him. That's how he's merciful. Am I right?
Is it right to say that he can predict because he has written the rules?
Because he experienced also. Yeah, of course. He has written rules and he has experienced both. Okay, so at the same time he's predicting, but we have to do our stuff. Am I right? We can't just take it for granted. Krishna also says, you do your thing perfectly. I'll do my stuff. You do your work, I'll do my work. Don't worry about that. That's all.
So what do you mean by planning?
What's planning all about?
Like you just said, he will plan to get you back to devotion.
Yeah, he will plan. So, like for example, he planned that this temple should be open here, so that maybe these people around, they get some benefit. Or he plans in your life, okay, I'll send devotees to him. Or he might plan, I will make an accident happen to him. Oh, actually, you know what? So I met a devotee in Canada, just now, one family. And they came and they were like a little sad. I told what happened. They told, Prabhuji, actually, you know what? We have undergone big calamities in our life. And this is the third one. And now when third thing happened to us, then we came to devotion. They started chanting. So I told what happened, first time what happened to them was, so when they came to Canada, so work permit is there? No. They got work permit, but when they came to immigration, they spoke something in India and some other thing here. I mean to say that person, he didn't know what that agent wrote, and they fill form something else. Immediately they got caught and they were deported back. I mean, they went to court and judge and they were saying, my God, what happened to us? They were deported and 1 year ban. It was a big thing, isn't it? And then that her husband was in Canada, she was deported. So, and then second what happened was second calamity. But actually at that time they were actually introduced to ISKCON, but they didn't take it seriously. Going. And the next thing happened. That they got a twin child, and doctors told that they will die. 5 months. They were like abnormal. And there were a lot of pressure, and all doctors told die, but they prayed to Krishna and they prayed, and they were saved. So they got little faith there. And then this third thing happened was one person, they opened a restaurant and one person came from France, and he actually took all the money. He did something, and they were fully, all court cases, legal cases, income tax, they were fully surrounded by everything. Their all money gone, zero. And their restaurant was, and that they couldn't do anything. And that person on the top of that, he did suicide in that restaurant. He hanged. And their restaurant is seized. They're on roads. And then, because they already have little faith at that point, so this point, they knew if we pray to Krishna, He's going to save us. So they came to temple, they started chanting, reading Gita and this and that, and somehow they came out of it. So I told them, so what did you learn from all these things? They said, what? They said, we came to conclusion Krishna planned, because we were not coming to him, we were avoiding him. But then Krishna was, then I told him, see, Krishna is so merciful. He really wanted you. You didn't want him. And he has finally brought you to him. And when they started chanting, they chanted 16 rounds, reading Gita, things were solved. They're out of it now. So I told you, see, Krishna wanted you. As soon as you came to him, he just stopped everything. Otherwise, you would have keep on continuing. So that's how planning, what he does, we don't know. But whatever he does, it's to bring you back to him. That's what he's doing. We die, death comes also because He wants us. That's why we have to die. Krishna says, you have to understand how much I love you. And if you don't understand, I will teach you, I will show you how much painful you feel when you leave your beloveds. Isn't it? And fearful. That's how I felt when you left me. So every birth we experience death. And in the form of death, Krishna gives a hint to us how He is feeling. So you see, so death is planned. Birth is planned. And all these, whatever is happening, there's an instruction, there is a teaching there. And that teaching, the scriptures, there is a role of scriptures. By scriptures, when we read scriptures, we learn how to see death. Why death is happening, why these things are happening, how Krishna is planning, how He's managing, what He wants to teach us from this. You see? So like that, day and night is planned by God. Day and night, and the next day, the previous day is your lust. The next day is the love of God. And the night is a struggle of a devotee to purify himself. What do you say about that? That's what scripture says. So, that's planning. Whole creation is a planning of God. And wise devotees, when they read Gita, that's why read Gita and Bhagavad, then you'll be able to see how God's plan is all around you. Around you, inside you. And how everything is based on His mercy and on His love. And things go. Got my point? That's my plans. Okay, Prabhu, what you're saying?
You answered it. So my question is, if Krishna is all about love and sweetness,
Yeah.
and why there is so much of suffering?
Why so much of suffering? Yeah. He made us suffer because He's sweet. No, well, yeah. That's difficult to digest, but...
There is so much of suffering in the world that you see, like someone has everything.
You see the point, you know what? When I was young, there was one of our neighbor. And that father used to beat child like... He has 3 children and he used to beat him with belt. And I used to think what kind of parents they are. But when they grew, we also, then they topped in IT, and like they were the toppers, and so then I mean to say, at that time when they were my friends, and they came and told me, we are so thankful to our father now. I mean to say, now they think about their father. It's a very different thing. I mean to say, they actually respect their father, and they don't. It's a different kind of thing, because actually they didn't let us fall into bad habits and whatever. It is a little extreme example, but this is how that was my neighbor. But the whole point is, Krishna is like a father who slaps you if you don't listen to him, and he brings you back. And when you're back on the right path, then you say, oh, that's the right thing they did, because I was about to go in a stool pit. I was about to die, and he saved me. Bhaktivedanta gives that example, no? Flying kite. So a boy was flying kite on the roof without that fence. Was flying and he was going back. Was about to fall. Another boy came, he caught him by his shirt, pulled him, and he slapped him. So, is he merciful or is he cruel? He saved him, otherwise he would have been dead. That's how he went. So many years back, I was in Gujarat and there was a train, and that train just, it stopped. I got down, the parents got down, and the train moved. And that female who got down, she was screaming in the station. And people asked what happened. She said, my daughter is inside the train. And she was screaming, running behind the train. Train was moving, and whole station was seeing what's happening. And the daughters, so suddenly she saw her daughter coming from that side. Yeah, other side. She was like 15, 16. She already got down, but she went in different direction. So after the train went, and so she was coming from there, she went, she saw her and she was shouting. When she saw her, she went and she slapped her. Slapped her thrice, and then she hugged her. Like she was also angry, like, why did you leave me? Like, what's happening? Like, isn't it, that's love. We can understand that's love. That's why she slapped. She was so affected, she couldn't think of living without her. So she said, how can you do this to me? That's Krishna. Krishna says, how can you do this thing to me? How can you leave me? First tell me. I love you so much. And that's where his anger comes. Out of love. It happens in modern world also, lovers and girlfriend, boyfriends, and the boyfriend is like girlfriend can really be on his case, if he doesn't talk and for some time he says, what's happening, you crazy, and you're not. She's shouting at him, but that shouting is out of love. So that's how it goes.